And time now for our PIX panel, everybody, joined by PIX political reporters Henry Rosoff and Ayana, as well as Ben Max, the executive editor at Gotham Gazette. So good to see you, all three of you.
Good morning.
So let's begin with this. We had Senator Kirsten Gillibrand on, right, talking about Mayor Adams calling out President Biden for not doing enough to help with the migrant crisis. A lot of talk about moving a few dozen folks from New York City and talking to upstate mayors. But that hasn't really happened yet. So is it going to put a strain maybe on their relationship between the senator and the mayor, Henry?
It absolutely could, but the fact of the matter is that Mayor Adams has a big numbers problem, and he laid it out in kind of great detail for the first time last week, several $billion-dollar whole budget. So he needs to be direct because we're slashing other city services at the mayor's request as a result of this crisis. He doesn't have a choice at this point, Dan.
And Dan, the mayor has slightly modified his request from the federal government. He's now also asking for a pathway for migrants to be able to work legally here in New York City. PIX 11, we were recently given exclusive access inside one of the centers housing migrants, and what I heard from person after person is they appreciate the shelter, but they also want to be able to work, provide for themselves, and become more productive parts of the city life.
The senator is saying, well, we have an $800 million bill we just passed, but the billion-dollar word was what the mayor was using, Ben.
Well, I think Mayor Adams has every right to be frustrated with the slow pace of aid coming from the federal government, but I also think there's a lot of room to question the terms he used to criticize President Biden. Now, this could go in a couple different directions. It's a pretty big gamble for the mayor. I don't think people at the White House would take too kindly to the way he talked about the president failing New York City. That being said, the White House doesn't want the mayor of New York City out there saying those things, so it might light a fire under them to get them some more money. We shall see if it pays off for the mayor.
Yeah, and the mayor not only was on local television, he was on national television talking about this, using that failure word, and that's not a good word to use for anything. So New York City will have to pay, let's talk about this, right, $53 million to thousands of people who were locked in what was essentially solitary confinement at Rikers Island, though it wasn't called by that name, right? This is the big conversation about what to call it. And there's been renewed calls to end solitary in all forms. So given the settlement, where does the debate over the issue go from here? Ayana, let me turn to you first.
Sure. So, Dan, first I want to point out the DOC says the conditions that were a part of this lawsuit, that they have since been changed. But there has been this stalemate, and it's really unclear how it will break. You have progressive lawmakers. You have the city's public advocate saying that punitive segregation or solitary confinement, whatever you want to call it, that it needs to end on Rikers Island. But consistently, the Commissioner Molina, he said we do need a way to separate some of the most violent offenders on Rikers from the rest of the population. So how that will play out is still yet to be seen. The stalemate remains, and the public advocate does have legislation that would end solitary confinement, but it has stalled so far in the city council.
Yeah, and this has been a conversation for decades about solitary versus punitive and whether or not it should exist. So I guess, Ben, when you look at the totality of it, is this going to drag out, you think, until Rikers actually shuts down?
I don't know. I think this settlement's going to give renewed momentum behind this bill that has a majority of sponsors in the city council. The thing is this, in the bill, there is specific language about separating individuals on Rikers who are violent. It's just a matter of exactly how and exactly where. Yeah. So I think there could be some sort of compromise that is in name a ban on solitary confinement, but still has some of the pieces that DOC says are necessary in terms of separating violent individuals. The other part, though, of this whole conversation that we see is that the Department of Correction doesn't always implement the laws that they're supposed to implement or run the jail system well. And there's huge questions about whether the DOC can do that and whether it's improving under this new mayor and commissioner.
All right, we only have a little bit of time left here, but let me squeeze in this quick question about marijuana sales, because despite starting recreational sales in December, it seems that the numbers aren't where the state actually wants them to be. Henry, does it have to do... actually, you know what? We're actually out of time. So, you know what? We're going to end it there. Sorry, just got the hook.